We're not afraid, chant the crowds in Paris. But it's a difficult promise to keep. With reports of shooting, in seconds, bravery turned to panic. That fear which is haunting Paris and the need for justice have prompted the biggest manhunt in modern French history. Thankfully, this was a false alarm. But the government has warned more attacks are being planned, and the accomplices to Friday's terrorist plot are still on the run. 3 days on, and investigators are piecing together the names of France's most wanted. They say Salah Abdeslam played a key role in the siege of the Bataclan theatre. In the hunt for him, raids were carried out just over 3 hours from Paris in neighbouring Belgium. The Brussels suburb of Molenbeek has been a real focus for investigators. Described as a rundown magnet for drugs gangs and jihadists, several of the alleged terrorists are believed to have links here. Tear gas was used, and after a 3-hour operation, a suspect taken away. His identity isn't known. But questions are being asked about why an opportunity to detain Abdeslam was missed on Saturday. He was stopped near the Belgian border hours after the attacks, but not detained. His brother insists he is innocent.
I cannot tell you why. I cannot tell you how they did what they did. We are an open-minded family. We never had any problem with justice. And you must also understand that because of the tragedy, my parents are in shock, and they don't quite realise what has happened.
Whilst the Bataclan suicide bombers will never face justice, Abdeslam has been named as the man who aided their carnage, reportedly helping with logistics and renting a black Volkswagen Polo to transport the attackers to the scene. More than 80 people lost their lives when the gunmen opened fire, then blew themselves up in the concert hall. One of the bombers has been named as Sami Amimour. On a day of simultaneous raids, neighbours told how an address linked to him in northern Paris was searched by police. An international arrest warrant was already out for the 28-year-old who previously disappeared after being charged with terror offences.
J'étais à l'école, ramener mes petits-enfants. J'ai attendu les gens qui l'habitent à côté à 2 heures.
I was at school bringing back my grandchildren. The police came to the people next door. They bashed the door down, and there they found lots of things. It's like a country at war. It's a shame. It's a real shame.
A second Bataclan suicide bomber has been named as Ismail Mustafa, already flagged for links to Islamic radicalisation. Police have been able to name him after identifying the prints from one of his fingers found in the aftermath of the attack. There were 3 explosions at the Stade de France on Friday night. Three suicide bombers. One has been named as Ahmed al-Mohammed. The 25-year-old is thought to be from Idlib in northwest Syria. It's emerged the attacker, who dreamt of inflicting mass casualties at the France versus Germany friendly, had travelled through Greece last month, posing as a migrant. The authorities have released these images of paperwork filed when he reached Europe, even showing the fingerprints which were ultimately used to identify the remains of his body. Altogether, there were anti-terror raids in 168 locations across France and Belgium. A host of weaponry was recovered, including a grenade launcher. With France still in a state of emergency, the police are using every inch of their powers to ease the fears of Parisians by cranking up the pressure on the jihadists, promising to break their network at home and abroad. In Syria, France launched a wave of airstrikes against Islamic State targets in Raqqa. It was France's heaviest bombardment since joining the air campaign against IS. But it's not just the Islamists' command structure they want to destroy. Their prize target now will be this man, Abdelhamid Abaoud. The French government says he is the mastermind of Friday night's atrocities. This footage was taken from a jihadist propaganda video. The Islamists say France is being punished for its hardline foreign intervention in Iraq and Syria. Parisians always feared for that they would pay a heavy price.
I've been following the jihadi underworld for nearly 3 decades, and I was really witnessing a buzz that was calling for the imminent for a strike on European soil, and I'm afraid to add that a second wave is more than probable somewhere in Europe, maybe not in France, but somewhere in Europe, and very soon.
A Belgian of Moroccan origin, Abaoud evaded Belgian police after a gun battle in January. He was jailed in absentia for recruiting Western fighters to join militants in Syria, even signing up his 13-year-old brother. Abaoud was linked to thwarted attacks on a Paris-bound high-speed train.
The Islamic State used to rely on lone wolves, or the so-called the lone wolf, to inspire attacks. These attacks, though, the attacks last Friday in Paris, seemed to suggest a shift in the so-called Islamic State strategy, away from inspiration to coordination. And if this is so, if the American and the French officials are correct, this really represents a radical shift in the so-called Islamic State strategy.
If Abaoud was the mastermind, these are some of his victims. Nohemi Gonzalez was a 23-year-old design student from Los Angeles. She's the first American confirmed to have been killed in the attacks. Valentin Ribet was the first victim to be named. The 26-year-old French lawyer graduated from the London School of Economics. He was described by colleagues as a wonderful personality. Asta Diakite was the cousin of French international footballer Lassana Diarra. On Twitter, he said she was a big sister to him. Nick Alexander was from Colchester in Essex. He was killed at the Bataclan Theatre where he was selling merchandise for the rock band who were performing. His American girlfriend, Paulina Buckley, held a vigil in New York in his memory.
He was the brightest person in the world. I can't imagine my life without him.
In Paris, 3 days of mourning continues. This was a tribute to those who died at La Belle Équipe Café. Amongst the victims were sisters Halima and Hoda Sadi. One was the manager, the other visiting from their home in Senegal. They were Muslim. The bar's owner is Jewish and lost his wife. Their families united in grief.
The people that do this, they kill Muslims. They kill everyone. Our sisters are gone. So many people are wounded. I hope that the French people won't mix up everything. We are born in France, in Bourgogne. We have always worked, unlike what some stupid people may think. We are just citizens like anyone else, loving our families and the people in general, and we lost 2 sisters. My parents are in absolute distress. We were 8 brothers and sisters, and we became 6 in just one evening.
With so many grieving, there are searching questions for the French President François Hollande.
Monsieur le Président de la République!
In a rare address to the joint upper and lower houses of Parliament at the Palace of Versailles, he said Islamic State must be destroyed.
La France est en guerre.
France is at war.
The acts that were committed on Friday night in Paris and near the Stade de France are acts of war. Those who wanted to damage us by hitting innocents are cowards. Cowards that shot on an unarmed crowd. And we're not committed in a war of civilizations because those assassins don't represent any kind of civilization. We are fighting a war against jihadist terrorism that threatens the whole world and not only France.
These are difficult days in Paris, and people have stopped pretending they are not afraid.
We're all really scared. We're all really scared. But we're scared, but we know we have to fight back, and the only way to fight back is to keep on living the way we live.
Across France, a minute's silence was held for Friday's victims. It would be easy to blink in the face of adversity, but France's leaders say they will stay firm to the country's ideals.